Hello, and thank you for joining this brand new episode of Speaking of Happy with your host, Eli Rigatuso. With us today is Drew Pauly. Drew has lived abroad and is dedicated and passionate about Omaha's nonprofit community and advocacy. Currently holding various board positions as well as community engagement, Drew believes in empowering the advocate in you. Thanks for joining us for this brand new episode of Speaking of Happy, starting right now. Starting right now as my voice cracks. I crack myself up. Hey, y'all. All two of you that are on the live stream, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm really excited to be back. Supposed to have Drew on the show 2 weeks ago and just had a lot of things happening in my life that things just didn't work out the way I wanted them to. So Drew was very gracious enough to take a rain check. And so here we are this evening. I'm going to share a little bit more about Drew. Drew is an Omaha native who actually lived abroad for a decade and then returned to Omaha to work in the community. Drew sits on various boards, Made New Makerspace. He's also the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Chair for Heartland Pride and the RLI Chair for the YNPN of Greater Omaha. Drew's background and passion is in Omaha's nonprofit community and advocacy. Currently working in community engagement and has previously worked for youth homelessness as a case manager, asset-based community development, poverty alleviation, community outreach and engagement, and social impact consulting. And I love his motto, empowering the advocate in you. So please join me in welcoming Drew. Hello.
Hey, how's it going? My glasses are crooked. I apologize.
They looked fine to me.
Okay, we'll figure it out later. Sorry.
It's an optical illusion. Here.
Are they straight?
Let's just how's that?
There we go. Got it. No, I got it.
Get it straightened out, but don't straighten out too much. That's why I wear my rainbow glasses.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm here for it.
See, yeah.
Nice.
Exactly. Well, Drew, thank you so much, first of all, for, extending your graciousness in my missing, not being able to do the show a couple weeks ago. Again, nothing I really want to get into about my life because I just don't. We can talk about it in another capacity at another time. It's just not worth. It's not worth the emotional labor. It's not worth engaging in some of the grossness that happened. I'll just say that. I'll just leave it at that. But hey, look at this. Nicholas says, yay, Drew. Look at that. You have a fan. We have 6 people watching. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a lot of people watching.
I feel pretty on edge right now because I got all eyes on me. No, I'm kidding.
Well, there are, now 7. There are 14 eyes on us.
Oh, okay. It's doubling.
Somebody else. Oh my God! Hi, Drew.
Hey, Nevaeh. Nevaeh is my little stepsister.
Ah, hi, Nevaeh.
Yep.
Good to see you. Looks like you're flipping the bird in your profile photo. Gotta love that. Gotta sneak that in. I might have to grab a screenshot of that and use it. On Frankly Speaking.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Nevaeh, I'm so happy. And we're here. Speaking of happy, Nevaeh.
That was a great segue.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Drew, again, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited. I want to hear so much more about all the things. I might have to have you on more than one episode because I went down a rabbit hole on the Made New Makerspace.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what an incredibly cool thing.
Yeah. It's a little one-man show nonprofit at the moment. Jim Clements is who runs it, an amazing Omaha community leader, I would argue, advocating for our foster care youth and other underserved youth, and doing so in a way that blends STEM skills and hands-on learning with community and fostering all of that in this one hub. And so I love the mission over there.
Oh my gosh, I was looking at the photos on the website and just like how cool. And I love that it also says, and adults too. Come check it out. I was like,
Yep.
I'm there. I'm so there.
Yes. Yes.
So you sit on the board for that organization. And what is their biggest mission right now?
Yeah. So, well, fun fact, we just had our new location open up. We moved further east to be more accessible. And so our mission currently is to serve foster care and other under-resourced youth through STEM skills and mentorship. So that's like the current mission that has established this pillar, right? That mentorship takes community involvement. And so that's why we're talking about having a space that fosters community and STEM skills, and making it accessible to youth that otherwise wouldn't have access to it.
Right on. Awesome. Well, it's very, very cool, and I'm excited to go and check it out in person because it's definitely a hands-on kind of experience. So that's very, very cool. I know that you do the diversity, equity, and inclusion work. You're the chair of that for the Heartland Pride, which I love Heartland Pride. It's an organization that I helped to found and get started. And I'm just so grateful that it's continuing the great work that we built a foundation for. Spent 5 years myself and again, everything about Heartland Pride, there are no paid people. I
Yep.
should say this. There are people who get paid, but they get paid for performing at Pride
Mm.
or providing a service to Pride. And what you're trying to do, and what I've really loved as Heartland Pride has evolved, is working with organizations. Speaking of Nicholas Lemek, working with organizations who are advocating for and supportive of the LGBTQ plus community. And I'll just give a shout out to Elite Tactical Services, because this past year they ended up giving their services to Pride for Pride.
Yep. Yep.
And so that's like so super amazing, when companies do those types of things. To me, that really speaks volumes,
Yep.
because there's been year after year after year so many businesses who have really profited off of Pride.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to see organizations and businesses saying, you know what, we're not here to profit, we're here to continue to elevate this cause because it's so imperative.
Yeah.
So I think
Can
that's
I
really
add to that?
cool. Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
So Nick Lemek is the owner of Elite Tactical, and he is a very close friend. I consider him a brother. I was lucky enough to be able to officiate his wedding. And so Elite comes very highly recommended for anybody that is looking for security services, and wants to make sure that the security team is going to have the same values, is going to respect you for who you are. And Nick trains his employees to the highest standards. So it is unprecedented in a state like ours to have a security company that you can feel safe around as a queer Black person. So keep that in mind if you need security services.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. I'll have to have Drew come on the show sometime and share with us some of the things that they provide. I know they have a great referral program and some other things that they do. So very, very cool there. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing right now, in regard to diversity, equity, and inclusion with Heartland Pride. Pride. What's the focus right now?
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Eli, for asking me that question. Um, So the focus right now is to make sure that we have diverse representation, right, at the decision making table. I'm not talking the tokenization of Black and Brown people, Indigenous people, LGBTQIA2S plus people. I'm talking about equitable representation. And so we as the board had a conversation, and as a result of saying, hey, if we know that there are these systems of injustice, we know that these things are systemic in nature, right? So they exist in all facets of our life and nonprofits and everything like that. And
Yeah.
so having this conversation saying we have to put our money where our mouth is, for lack of a better phrase, and recognize that if we are cognizant of this injustice and we choose not to change, right, and to fix it, then we are complicit in perpetuating that very system that we say is oppressive. And so we chose to make sure that we are incorporating D&I in our recruiting process. And so currently there are 5 board positions that are open, and I am unapologetically me, so I'm just going to call it how I see it. I have focused my recruiting efforts on folks that are QT BIPOC, and have other lived experiences, because diversity isn't just racial, right? It's also in terms of your lived experience with your
Yeah.
gender identity, gender expression, your physical abilities, your
Yep.
mental abilities.
Yep.
And so really putting an emphasis on making sure that those communities feel represented and have an actual voice at the table.
Well, that's awesome. I love that. Absolutely love that commitment to bringing those diverse voices to the table and giving them those leadership positions to help, further the cause. Intersectionality right now is so important, especially in the work that we're doing as nonprofit organizations, right? I mean, I should be clear about this. I call Speaking of Happy an organization, but it is not a nonprofit. I want to be real clear with folks about that. And the reason why I set it up that way is because I don't want to have to answer to a board. I want to just be able to do what I'm doing, go out and do the training and the teaching and the different things that I do, be paid, but then also I give back. So when people come on my show, I actually compensate guests for being on the show. So you will get a small stipend for being on the show.
Oh,
And you can do whatever you want with that. You can do that for you. You can keep it for yourself. You can toss it to one of your organizations that you are working with. I prefer that folks that come on the show keep it for themselves, because I know a lot of us as Black, Brown, and Indigenous people are doing things as a labor of love, and that bothers me,
mm,
especially when I see nonprofit organizations who have paid staff and have like very heavy paid staff who is white, and paid staff that is not LGBTQ in leadership positions. They may have paid staff that's in the lower positions as LGBTQ plus folks, but they are not compensating us to take the helm. And they're not even considering us in some cases to take the helm. That's for another show, but
can I be in on that show? Because ooh, the tea is piping hot. Okay.
right. And I mean, it's piping hot right here, and it's piping hot in that, conversation. I hear a lot of people referring to it as the nonprofit industrial complex, and it will eat you up and spit you out quicker than you can blink your eyeballs. And especially if you're a Black, Brown, or Indigenous person, and just the judgments and the evaluations and the, like the standards to which we're being held. It's so, I'll just say this much. Prior to coming out as trans, I was treated one way, right? And I was treated a certain way because I was born assigned female, and I was too emotional. Now I have the opposite thing, where it's like if I'm very direct and I draw a boundary, now I'm being a bully and abusive, and I'm being
Mm,
toxic.
mm,
And in email communications, if I send an email communication that just clearly states something, right, I get back this like, that is so bullying and toxic and abusive of you. And I'm like, what is the fact that I this told you that it's my final request that you stop doing what you just did, that you've been doing, and I've asked you now 6 times to stop doing it, and now I'm being bullying and abusive.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
I look at it like this. It's implicit bias. It's the undisclosed bias to that person, that they actually do see me as Indigenous. They also see me as a trans man, but I'm a savage. See,
Mm-hmm. Come on now.
I must be uneducated. What kind
Oh,
of management experience do you have? Because the way you're doing this is not right. It should be done in XYZ way.
real quick, I would just like to say, Eli, when you said I'm a savage, I thought you meant like beast mode savage, which is why I was like, come on now. I
No,
apologize.
no. I'm in as in Indigenous, like
Mm-hmm.
we have to be colonized because we're such savages. But see,
I mean,
I come from here, right?
yep.
Everything that I do comes from here, but I also speak truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And people don't like it because I have a very fast processor. Like I feel like I'm one of those like super duper high powered computers with lots of memory and RAM, and you name it, all of the best of the best. Because somebody can give me a scenario and I can work something out in my head and be way ahead of everybody else. And everybody's like saying like, no, that won't work, no, that's wrong, you can't do it that way. And then time will go by and all of a sudden somebody shows them and says, here's what I think we should do about that. And it's like, that's what I said a week ago.
Yep.
But okay, go on with your bad self.
Yep. No, for real though. And I can attest to that same dynamic. 100%. I feel like when I'm a problem solver, and I feel like you and I are very similar in that regard because we both consult, right? And we both bring other organizations further along than where they're at. And so I think we have to be um, fast thinkers that can problem solve.
Yeah.
And immediately what we say, while it's valid and while it may not always be the ideal solution, it's at least a temporary solution until, as a team, we can. And I think it's typically viewed as, well, we can come up with something better. And it's like, well, until you come up with something better, why don't you implement the suggestion that I brought to the table, which is blatantly a temporary solution. So I definitely would resonate with that.
Yeah.
And can I add one other
Yeah.
piece, Eli? Or
Yeah.
I think when we look at Black and Brown and Indigenous folks and queer folk, and I use queer in this context to be super inclusive for everybody, gender expression, orientation,
Yeah.
romanticism, all of it. And so Black and Brown and Indigenous folks, queer folk in the nonprofit world, in the professional world as a whole, but speaking right now, right, to the nonprofit world, um, definitely have to overcome significant hurdles. Like, I feel like the systemic nature of racism is very evident in the nonprofit industrial complex when we look at the relationship between donors and executive leadership and what the programs are that are being proposed and what is being funded. And so I think it's in these spaces where folks like myself, and I'm speaking to my lived identity as a cis man, so there's male privilege and a patriarchy there. Obviously, I am Black, but I'm also white. And I benefit from privilege from proximity to whiteness and being half white, raised in a white context, right? And then there's also colorism that exists, in my opinion, as a result of slavery in America, which is intentional to divide the Black community so that there would never be true sense of unity. And as a result, I benefit from being a lighter skinned Black person. The biases are not as deep. And so I have to leverage the position that I'm in to advocate and elevate voices, of Black trans women. And right, we know the thing. I don't. Not, sorry, lost for words. If you don't know in the audience, Black trans women are one of the most vulnerable people group in America. and most prone to being assaulted and murdered. And so for me, making sure that those folks, that community, um, is represented matters, and I'm willing to put my privilege on the line because in my mind, otherwise, I'm just a performative ally that's acting as a mouthpiece without actually being invested in the community.
Yeah.
Sorry that I digress, but as you were
No,
talking,
no, that there was no digression there. I look at it like this. I do what I do because I will speak up and speak out. I call this speaking of happy because I really would prefer that the conversations stay lighthearted, but it's not always possible. And the truth of the matter is, I've worked with a number of nonprofits who have hired me and paid me to come in and talk to people about people who are transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming. I co-train with my bestie, Avalisa Ellicott. She and I do what we call a transgender experience training, and she shares beautifully about her own personal life experience. But she also shares about her own privilege. She's like, "Look, I have pretty privilege. I have passing privilege. I don't have passing privilege." Right? You might see me as male because you've kind of been on this journey with me, and many people who follow me on Facebook, etc., have all been on this journey with me, so they've had some time to adjust. But when I go out into the world, like I wanted to go get a copy of my birth certificate, okay? And I need a copy of my birth certificate because I am trying to become officially recognized by my Menominee Nation and get what's called an ancillary enrollment card. That's another conversation for another program about all of the bullshit in regard to, blood quantum and all these other
mm,
things. Anyway, so I go to get my to ask for a copy. In 2015, I changed my name, I changed my gender marker, went through all of the hoops that you had to jump through, and I thought I had gotten additional copies of my birth certificate back then, but I can't find them anywhere in my house. I've like torn my house apart. So I go down there today, and the guy, he was super nice guy, like no harm, no foul. I walk up to the counter and I start explaining to him what I need, and he mams me. And I said, and I was wearing a mask. I don't know. Anyway, I said to him, I said, "Well, I'm not a ma'am. Here's my ID. Like my gender marker is male." I could go into a long story about how I'm both and because I'm also two spirit and that there's a lot of different things that go into that, but that's a whole long conversation that I'm sure the guy at the Vital Records office doesn't care about. Anyway, he's like, "Well, ma'am, I'm sorry, but they didn't send us the new copy of your birth certificate. What we have on record here is the old copy with your name." And he says my dead name.
real quick,
Yeah.
you corrected him on misgendering you. Did he then misgender you again right after being corrected?
Yeah, that happens all the time. Happens all the time. But it is what it is. And I was fine. I was like, whatever. I tried to even relate to him by like, he's got Steelers paraphernalia. I'm like, "Oh, so you're a Steelers fan?" He's like, "Yeah, whatever." He's a white guy. He's having a
Mm.
conversation about his Steelers, whatever. Anyway, I, so he says to me, he's like, "Well," he goes, "I'm so sorry. You're going to have to call the Lincoln office. Here's the phone number. Ask for Dixie."
Oh my god.
And I'm like, um, okay, like, I'm so confused. Like, I did this 6 years ago. I made this change and you're telling me that it didn't get sent here. I had to go through all these hoops 6 years ago. And he's like, "Well, are you sure you gave them the right paperwork? Are you sure blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "I'm positive." And he's like, "Well, I'm sorry, there's nothing else I can do." Well, then this brown woman sitting beside him says, "Hey, let me see that for a second." So she says to me, "So I'm sorry, Eli, is it?" And I said, "Yes." And she says, "Well, here, let me call the office there real quick and see what's going on." I'm like, "Oh, great. Fantastic. Thank you." So she calls and has a little conversation. I'm sitting over there. She asks me something else. I answer, sit back down. I'm waiting. Well, then she calls me over and she says, "Okay, I just talked to Dixie. and she's going to drop that in the mail. I said, okay, when you say drop that in the mail, does that mean it's going to be like a week from now, 2 weeks from now? Like, when do you think that? And then she's like, look, I am helping you. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry, I'm just asking. And she says, and she kept interrupting me. And like, there was just this way that she was being where I was like, I'm not mad. I hope you know I'm not mad. She's no, I don't think you're mad at all. But like, then she wouldn't like listen to me. And I was like, you know what? I'll call Dixie myself.
Oh,
Because it was like she didn't even want to listen to me. It was like she's already treating me with this weird like barrier up of, I don't want this guy to get mad, or this person, or what, whatever this person is. I don't want them upset. And I was like I felt like she was treating me like I was angry when I wasn't.
mm,
But I'm just so tired of being perceived as this like angry person. Like, I wasn't even angry. I'm like talking about the freaking Steelers I could give a rat's ass about. Like, I don't care about the fucking NFL. As a matter of fact, the NFL can go F itself, right? No fucking league. And
I don't sport.
I don't sports either. But anyway, I totally I went off on a tangent there. But the bottom line is this, like, there's this perception of me being like this, ooh, but like, here's the thing I won't tolerate. If I'm having a conversation with you and you don't want to give me answers, then I'm going to stop the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste my time. Let's talk about this later when you have some answers.
Mm.
Does that mean I'm going to like fire you or write you up? No, that just means, look, I get it. You don't have any answers. When you have the answers, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not rocket science. But anyway, I just had a major digression.
No, sometimes we need it. Sometimes you just need to tell people what it is and how it is. So I'm here for it.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's part of what all this work is. And I've just gotten to the point now where I'm like, I do the things that I do that I enjoy because I enjoy doing them. I love having conversations. That's why I call it Speaking of Happy. I love hearing about the wonderful things that people are doing in the community, the wonderful work. I appreciate that you're doing the work that you're doing, and not just in a job that you're getting paid for, but also at working with other nonprofits to help, turn them into better stewards of the nonprofit community, because there's been so many bad actors for so long.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know and it's just wild, because it's like I get hired to go and do these trainings with Avalisa, and I get all of these beautiful accolades from people. Like, we did a whole series of trainings for Heartland Family Services, and all of the feedback surveys came back 95% or higher positive, telling
Okay.
us that they enjoyed the training, that, oh my gosh, like Avalisa and Eli made it so easy to comprehend. Like, I have a deeper understanding now. We've had people come back around and email us later and say, oh my God, your training was so timely, because I just had a cousin come out as trans or non-binary, or my cousin's kid came out, or my sister's kid came out as trans. And so I know that there's this ripple effect and this impact that goes beyond, um, you know, just those moments. But it's like, I guess I just need to keep doing what I'm doing, right?
Yeah. But honestly, I think those agents of change in our communities are folks that, like yourself, right, that are, I'm going to keep doing what it is that I do because I do it well and it has an impact. And I bet, Eli, you would agree with me on, if it touches even just one person, right? Like, if it makes a difference in even just one person's life, then it was all worth it.
Yeah.
And so I
Because
think that's it.
it does have that ripple effect, right? And I know where I'm coming from in my heart, and I know that there are gonna be people that look, it's kinda like our state motto, Eli, he's not for everyone.
Hey, I'm gonna join you on that one. Eli knows I have a reputation right now for coming for some performative white women in nonprofit leadership. Like, honey, I'm gonna need for you to get on board, okay? Because I'm okay if someone doesn't like me, right? Like, right, justice is justice. Like, if you're doing something that's harmful to other people, like, yeah, it's going to be people like Eli, people like myself that are going to hold you accountable to that. We're going to give you an opportunity to learn and grow in the moment. But yeah, so honestly, I try to get everybody to be like that. Like, speak up, don't hold back, because what are they going to do? I'm sorry, I was born in '92, and I'm just turned 30, and we are the generation. Boomers
Yeah,
aren't it anymore. Like, we
yeah.
are the ones that are taking positions of power and have the ability to have that systemic influence. And we have the ability to recognize that broken system and bring in younger generations, right? Because I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Gen Z makes some stuff happen when they get TikTok united, right?
yeah.
And so uh, claim space
Yeah,
and call it how it is,
yeah.
and make change and force it. Like, change isn't going to happen because it wants to happen all the time. Seldom is it like that. I'm
Well,
all about.
and it's one of these things where, I tell people in the trainings all the time, I say, "Look, it's one thing for you to sit in this training and tell me, I know this, I do this, I've done that. It's another thing for you to actually take on your grandparent who's a jackass. It's another thing for you to have a conversation with your uncle and point out that he's being incredibly disgusting."
Or even
and
your
and
mom.
and uplift that knowledge and awareness, and like really just say what it is. Like, people go and suffer through holiday meals all the time with people they can't even stand to share a meal with. Why go do that then?
Hmm.
Why not be that change agent in those arenas, right? Be that change agent in those arenas. Now, I get that there is trauma. I understand trauma, and I understand that we need to heal a lot of trauma. And sometimes we need to remove ourselves from our families because of that. But I also know that I've had some pretty tough conversations with my family members, and they had to take whatever time they needed to take away from me, and then we got back together and we talked again, and things had gotten better.
Yeah.
But it's only because I took that moment to have that conversation and say, "Hey, not cool, don't like what you just said, here's why. Please don't say it again. Please especially don't say it when I'm not around.
Hmm.
And now that you know better, can you please do better?"
Yeah. I think a lot of
So,
people hold back because they want to placate the sentiments of maybe even just one person that's going to be at that holiday. And my thought is, you are willing in that moment to sacrifice what's right, to sacrifice what's just, to sacrifice making impact, having impact, and making change for the sake of keeping the peace for one person or a few people. And to me, that is no different than being complicit. I mean, essentially, you are being complicit and you are perpetuating the very thing that you are aware of that's problematic. I said this earlier, because to me, if you're aware of it and you have the position to say something, why would you not say something? Oh, because you don't want your mom to get mad at you? My mom went to bed, but I could call her up, talk to her, like say, hey, can we talk about what our conversations about white privilege to look like? And I'm telling you, me and my mom had straight up arguments
mm,
about it. And I remember one day after years of really trying to dismantle these pieces, she called me up and she said, "Hey, can we talk?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she said, I get what you meant. Like, I finally get it.
mm,
And for like, that's the change, right? Like,
yeah.
that's the change. My mom is a business owner and has the ability to employ people, and making sure that everybody has a healthy understanding and a healthy perspective makes us a stronger community. And so
Yeah.
we have to make our people feel uncomfortable, even if it's your mom. Like, yeah, I love my employers. Um, I love the work that I do. I love the boards that I'm on, but I have told boards that I'm on and employers, I will let you fire me before I let you tone police me, because tone policing is a manifestation of systemic oppression to prevent change. And so you got to make people uncomfortable, y'all. Like, I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah,
Stay neutral.
absolutely. And that's one of the biggest ones that people use against me all the time is tone policing. Like, Eli, calm down. Like, do you really have to be that upset about this? Or people saying, Eli, if you weren't so angry all the time, maybe people would listen to you. It's like, oh, honey, I haven't even gotten started.
That part.
All right. So Nikki shared the starfish story. I'm going to put it up here. One day, a man was walking along the beach when he noticed a boy hurriedly picking up and gently throwing things into the ocean. Approaching the boy, he asked, "Young man, what are you doing?" The boy replied, "Throwing starfish back into the ocean. The surf is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them back, they'll die." The man laughed to himself and said, "Don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and hundreds of starfish? You can't make any difference." Okay, she's going to
The second
hopefully,
part of that story, I know
yeah.
the ending is essentially the boy rebuttals, but even if I save one life, is it was that's when the comment appeared.
Yeah.
And so that story is the idea of, even if I don't save them all, at least I'm saving some, and some is better than none.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get that. I have to remind myself of that when things kind of get off kilter in my life with things, when I'm dealing with activated trauma of my own, or when I'm dealing with people who want to like drag me. Even when I don't even realize I'm being drugged, but but it happens.
Yeah,
I mean, how boring someone must be to have to talk about me like that.
I mean, I feel like we're pretty good friends,
Bored
and
life.
I feel like you're a busy person, and I feel like we don't talk super frequent, but I feel like we have. I don't know. I consider you a very close friend. Um, and so the idea that somebody has all this extra time on their hand to be the journalist of Eli's life, and like,
Yeah.
I don't know who it is that is trying to drag you, but I can, if that person's watching this,
Oh, they probably aren't.
what
That's
what are you
okay.
doing?
They
What are
might
you
have
doing?
one of their people watching to check back in later to say, "Oh my God, Eli, I know Eli was talking about you."
Let
But
me just
we don't
say,
even need to go there.
what goes around comes back around.
Oh, I know. Karma, she is a wonderful thing, that karma. All right. Well, listen, we have more things to talk about what you're up to.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing with the YNPN of Greater Omaha, and that's the youth, uh,
that's the Young Nonprofit
young.
Professionals Network.
That's it, YNPN, and they're the ones that do the summit every year, right?
No, so the YP Summit is actually through the
Oh,
chambers,
got it.
young professionals, Go YP, Greater Omaha Young Professionals.
Okay,
YNPN is specifically geared more towards our nonprofit
got it.
based young professionals. And so a lot of our folks are also involved with the Chamber's Young Professionals Network as well.
Okay.
But yeah,
So tell me what you're doing with this organization, with the
yep.
the YNPN.
Yeah. So it is March 1st, and I've been on this board now for 2 months. So I'm still in that onboarding phase and getting familiar with more of the nitty gritty. But I just switched. I was originally the at-large board member, and I'm switching for the RLI chair board member. So the Rising Leaders Institute, which
Oh,
is a professional development opportunity that's conducted in conjunction with the Nonprofit Association of the Midlands for young nonprofit professionals that are meant to be in positions of leadership and are working towards growing their leadership skills. That is about all I can say to it right now, because I need to touch base with the rest of the board, and because we just made this decision recently. But
okay.
yep.
All right. Well, awesome. What sounds like a great opportunity for people to get involved who want to both be mentored and potentially become a mentor.
Oh, definitely. Also, I don't know. So it's for them to become a mentor. There's a leadership cohort that's done with NAM. Those the folks that have gone through that program are actually the mentors for the
Oh,
folks in the Rising Leader Institute. Um,
yes.
and also, can I keep going on YNPN for a second?
Yeah, please.
So that's the leadership development opportunity through that program. Recently, there we started Learn, Do, Give, and our co-board president, Vanessa. I want to. I You ever have that moment where you think you just butchered someone's name? I just
Yes.
had that moment on a live, so no shame in my game, y'all. I'm just gonna call it how it is. I apologize.
Well,
And
that's why
I am right.
I was glad that you said Nevea before because I was like, let me
Yep.
see, is that one pronounced?
But yeah, so
Oh,
Vanessa.
oh, see, okay, so I have to share this. This is why I do the work that I do. This is from a mom who recently reached out to me. Thank you, Eli, for helping give me the courage to stand up for my child at their school this week. I encouraged your training and demanded their proper pronouns be used. Michelle, kudos to you,
Heck
Michelle,
yeah.
for taking a stand and being such a powerful advocate for your kiddo and for the Packer backer in your photo.
And thank you for sharing that with Eli, right? Because
Yeah,
it makes the work worth it when you're able to see the fruit of that labor. That yeah, you know it has impact, but you don't always get to actually see how it manifested.
yeah.
And so those when folks share how someone's investment impacted them is super critical, I would say.
Yeah. Well, it does. It absolutely makes a difference. And I mean, I'll keep doing what I'm doing just because I am out to make a difference for folks who are transgender, non binary, and gender non-conforming, most especially those who are Black, Brown, and Indigenous. I do love all transgender folks, don't get me wrong. But again, those intersecting identities, life just occurs differently for folks who are multi marginalized. And I want folks who are multi marginalized, especially our youth, to know that, look, you can go on and have successful, fruitful lives, even if you choose not to be an advocate, that you can still go on and have a successful, fruitful life and have a life partner and experience all of the things that folks who are cisgender may experience. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
here's
Yep.
another. I also reached out to a teacher who has a pride sticker in the classroom to let them know my child noticed it and immediately felt safe there. All those things do make a difference. Absolutely, Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing.
That
Definitely.
those things definitely make a difference. Eli mentioned, right? Eli does a lot of consulting and trainings related to trans, NB, GNC, non-binary folks. I cannot speak to that lived experience, right, beyond being an ally. But I can speak to the intersectionality of being multi-ethnic and a part of the LGBTQIA2S plus community.
Yeah.
Um, and I had the opportunity, um, not well, sometime this past year, to be able to go and do like an assessment slash quick consultation with one of our local nonprofits that I can't disclose their name. But it did lead to me being invited to be on their master planning committee for the next, like their 10-year master plan, which is a huge opportunity to have that influence at that foundational level. And so it truly is when we speak to folks and they are willing to receive what our advocacy is, that you can see that impact, and it's going, and this kind of impact that trickle down effect, right?
Yeah.
Like you train the trainer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we talked about YNPN of Greater Omaha. Is there anything else that you want to share about what's happening there or what's going on with that?
Yes. So the board members at YNPN, because we're a working board, we don't have an employee, we're all volunteer, and that's for all of the boards that I'm on. Is super freaking diverse. So I love that, and a bunch of talent and wealth of knowledge in the field that they are bringing. And so I love that there's this cooperative nature. As a result of it, we have some amazing initiatives in the process. So we are focusing on creating and more diversity, equity, and inclusion in our chapter. And that is actually a subcommittee that is open to YMPN members. By the way, membership is free. And so I was very excited when I sat in on the first one not too long ago, and I saw people that I know that other people in the community would know, and I thought it was really cool to see them having this back end influence that I otherwise wouldn't have known that they were having. So I was very happy to for that. I'm able to kind of jump in and help support Vanessa, our co-chair president, on that as well. And so that's really great. And obviously, as you know, we are talking about this intersectional piece. And so we have 5 scholarships to the YP Summit that launched today. And we have made those, we've set it up in a way that the recipients of that, there's more equity and less barriers to access, because we want to make sure that there are professional development opportunities for Black and Brown and Indigenous folks, and folks who either they're underpaid by their employers because they're employed at an entry level position like we were talking about earlier, or maybe their employers just simply unwilling to pay for it. And so yeah, I thought that was a really exciting piece of that.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And where can someone go to find the scholarships and apply to get to the YP Summit? Is it
Yes,
on the I'm on the ynpnomaha.org. Let's
I
see
know it was
here.
posted to our LinkedIn at least.
And I
Let me see
don't
if I
see.
can. I'm going to see if I can link it to you so you can post it.
Okay. But I will post the website. So here is a link to the actual website, putting that out there for folks. And then, yeah, put that in the chat though. Can you put that in our private chat?
Let me see.
That way I can copy and paste it over into the public piece of that.
Share. No, here we go.
Good night, Nikki. Nikki says, night, y'all.
Bye, Nikki.
Thanks for tuning in. Good to see ya. Right on. Okay, so that's cool. And the YP Summit is an amazing experience. I actually was one of the change makers with the YP Summit. I got their Change Maker Award
Okay,
one
now.
year and got to have a little speechy speech. So that was kind of a fun little deal.
Yep.
Let's see. So you said, did you post that? Nice to see y'all too. Keep going forward. We are going forward. Absolutely. Still doing our thing. Did you paste that in the?
So I don't have.
Oh, I see where you sent it. I got it. Okay.
Sorry, yep.
I got it.
I'm not as technologically advanced as you, Eli.
All right. So there we go. I just went ahead and pasted that into the chat. So that went out on the live stream right now, so people can actually see that link.
Nice.
That is where you can go, and if you're interested, sign up for a scholarship through the YNPN of Greater Omaha to go to the YP Summit, which is the largest young professionals conference in the country, and it happens right here in Omaha. More than 1,500 plus young professionals, all for a day of education, inspiration, and connection. So it's a really great experience. I've actually gone a couple of different times to the YP Summit and have enjoyed it every time that I've gone. So lots of cool stuff happening. And it's mostly local folks doing breakout sessions and sharing some of their knowledge and awareness and experience with our community. So it's kind of cool to see that, because a lot of times, of course, the big speakers are usually flown in from somewhere. You get the big name because that gets the big draw, and et cetera, et cetera. Um, but it's one of the conferences that I love because most all of the breakouts are local people.
Yep.
So that's
And
been very cool.
the chamber is kind of known for doing that, at least for their breakout speakers. I was a breakout speaker at the Chamber's D&I conference this past fall. And I noticed that most of the other folks were also local folks. Yep.
Yeah, the code conference. I spoke at that conference two years ago, I think it was. Not this year, but last year.
Yeah.
So
Also, I would just like to say to people, I want you to know on the record, Eli took time years ago and invited me out to coffee. And it was a few hours that we were out for coffee to invest in me and pour in a free emotional labor to bring me to where I'm at. Because I was this self-loathing, dealing with my sexuality and my faith at the time, person who had no true traction and advocacy for the LGBTQ community, and just saying some dumb, harmful stuff. And I'm very appreciative that Eli took that time, because I sit in some of the positions that I sit in because of Eli's willingness to advocate for me. So thank you for that, by the way.
Well, you are very welcome. I appreciate you, and I will be here to support the efforts that you're involved with. Anytime, you're welcome to come back and talk more about what you've got going on and what you're looking for. Is there anything else in this last 10 minutes, 9 minutes that we have that you want to share? I mean, I know that you have a full-time gig. You do have a full-time gig, as if nonprofit boards was your full-time gig. It's not. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing for the Refugee Empowerment Center?
Yeah. So at the Refugee Empowerment Center, I've been acting as our volunteer coordinator and rebuilding some of those programs in order to create a collaboration between the community and as volunteers, and welcoming our Afghan refugees. The Refugee Empowerment Center took in 415 Afghan refugees, and we have another couple hundred refugees from across the world coming in. Is what some of the, I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but oh well, it is what it is, okay? And if I'm wrong, people. But so as a result, we are creating, there's a program called co-sponsorship, where self-organized groups within the community come together and essentially, and it's a big commitment, but they value it, and they essentially act as for 12 months from planning to end. They do everything that the case manager would do in terms of the resettling and delivery of core services for a specific family that they're paired with. And then they go beyond the traditional 90 days, which is the resettlement phase, and they continue that integration and that welcoming and that relationship building with them. And so I administer that program. I've been building that program. That's what I've posted a lot about. And so that's been a big project that I've been working on, because there are a lot of, Omaha is one of the, has one of the highest refugees per capita in the country. Like, we are we've taken a lot of refugees and have done so for at least like 30 years or so. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, and I just posted a link, so I put that out on the out in the chat. So that went out onto YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch, because we live stream to all three of those platforms. But volunteers sign up if you wanted to get involved with the Refugee Empowerment Center. You can go there. I'm assuming this is your mom.
Yeah, that is my mom.
Hi,
with
Mom.
My brother.
Hi, Mom. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Especially because she normally goes to bed at like 8 o'clock, so she stayed up late for this.
Hey, I mean, I'm staying up late for this.
Yeah, same.
I'm normally in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock myself. So
nice.
But this is awesome. This has been a great conversation. So again, like there's volunteer opportunities, I'm assuming, for every single one of these nonprofits that you're engaged with. The Made New Makerspace, actually, will go ahead and pull up that website as well so people can go and take a look at what's going on there, which is so cool.
I would also argue that Made New Makerspace could benefit the greatest from volunteering right now.
Okay.
It is literally a one-man show running the program, the entire nonprofit, and so I've actually been leading our recruiting efforts for volunteers there, and so we are looking for web editor, bookkeeper,
Do
just
they have any of those things posted though?
yes. So
Um,
I actually created it.
okay.
So you can go to Volunteer Match and type in Made New Makerspace, and it'll post the
Oh,
positions
okay.
that are open. And then essentially it's going to trigger an email to my email, and I pass that. I make sure it's good to go and pass that on to Jim, and he goes from there. So if you are somebody that wants to be able to help out a grassroots organization that focuses on empowering foster care and other underprivileged youth through STEM skills and mentorship in a community, in a communal way, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Go to Volunteer Match. The impact you have will be great. To give you an idea, Made New Makerspace was able to give enough computers in 2020 to impact 365 youth in Omaha that otherwise did not have access to a computer. So,
Wow.
yeah, they do a lot for our community. And you can go and look them up in the news too. There's been a few articles about it.
So let's see here. Let's see. I was trying to make sure that I'm looking at all the right things. Are you looking for an assistant director and volunteer coordinator?
Yep, we
Okay.
are.
Okay. Web editor,
Yep,
afternoon facility staff, bookkeeper, community outreach and
yep,
relationships coordinator, and a grant writer.
yep. And
Okay. Cool.
y'all know a grant writer is hard to come by. So if you are somebody that has experience in fundraising and you know a little bit about grant writing, I'm gonna need for you to hit a brother up. Okay. Thank you.
All right. So where you're going to go to find that again is go to Volunteer Match, type in Made New Makerspace, and Makerspace is one word, and it'll pull up all of the different, there are 7 opportunities listed out there. I did post on the page here. It's kind of a long, funky link too. But if you click on that link, if you happen to be on Facebook right now, that'll take you right to that page, and you can sign up to be a volunteer for the Made New Maker Space. Heartland Pride, same thing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up their website and give you a little bit more information. I do know that as Pride comes around, what do we have a date yet for Pride?
We have almost the date. We just got one signature left, and then that will be announced.
All
But you can
right.
expect, I would anticipate it being not too far off from last year's date.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. Well, I just posted, there is a scholarships happening right now. I do want to bring that up.
Yep.
Heartland Pride Scholarship Program was established in 2012. The mission of these scholarships is to provide financial assistance to individuals who identify as LGBTQIA2S+, who are enrolled for study in community colleges, universities, and or certification for a trade school. The deadline to fill out your application for a scholarship is March 31st, 2022, no exceptions. And there
Can I add?
is, yeah, yeah.
So also we are also, like I mentioned earlier about the board member, we're looking for board members. Um, that link will be live today, and then the deadline for that is going to be the 15th because of the onboarding process. So that way it's not right up at coming up on Pride planning specifically.
Right.
But I also want to, I don't, Eli, I'm just gonna, I don't know, diversity, equity, inclusion guy over here. As you know, I'm focused on QT BIPOC representation and positions of leadership across the board, industry wise. not just within our LGBTQIA2S plus community. However, I wanted to make sure that for people to have access to those opportunities, we have scholarships that are equitable. And so last year we talked as a team for Heartland Pride, and we created a scholarship which Eli knows was named after Eli, and it's the Eli Rigatuso Scholarship. So if you go to Heartland Pride, you will see that. And that scholarship is specifically for folks that live at the intersection of being a Black or Brown or Indigenous person and also a member of the LGBTQIA2S plus community. And so we also have been focused, our scholarship program is something that we are putting a big emphasis on. And so last year, while we went from 3 to 4 scholarships, we also increased that amount from $1,000 to $1,500.
Yeah, I see that.
And me and Jessica have this big heart to see this program really grow. And so I'm just going to put it out there. I'm playing into some stereotypes, but I know there are some white people watching, and there are some gay men watching that have money. And so I'm going to need for y'all to donate to Heartland Pride for the scholarships so that we can empower Black and Brown communities to have access to those opportunities that otherwise they would not have. So thank you for my soapbox.
Hey, you are welcome. This platform was for you tonight, for all of the things that you are involved in and all of the great work that you're doing. I'm trying to find a donate button. Do you have a donate button on your website for Pride? I don't see one.
I don't know if we do. I know this. I'm looking for a technology chair board member that can handle our website. Because if you go to it, child, let me tell you, she need a little bit of work, okay?
She does. She's got a lot of outdated information. The only thing I see right now is for 2022 scholarship program, which is totally fine. I wish that I could see a donate button, but I don't see one there. But again, I think do you have info at heartlandpride.org?
If someone wants more information, they can email me,
Okay.
and I will get you connected, because we are actively looking for someone to help organize our website
Okay.
and spruce it up. In fact, when I was showing it today to my boss, she was like, okay, I might even be able to help with that. So
what's your email? Where do you want me to have them email you at?
Yes, it is, because I have a few of those. Diversity at heartlandpride.org.
Diversity at heartlandpride.org. Okay, I just posted that out there. If somebody wants to go ahead.
I was going to say, if somebody wants to get connected with me outside of the context specifically of Pride, my email for that was drew@pitchforkstrategies.com. But no, I'm not going to consult for you related to LGBTQIA stuff, because hello, you're watching Eli's live stream. But for other stuff,
hey, but you know what? Drew and I can connect and do some trainings together. So it's not like we can't coordinate something and bring a great training together. So that is,
I agree with that one.
Absolutely something that we can also do. All right. Well, we have reached the end of our hour. We actually went a couple minutes over, and that's totally fine. But again, Drew, thank you so much. I appreciate having this conversation with you this evening, hearing about all of the amazing things that you're doing. I hope that you are getting sleep and engaging in self-care as well, because I know that it can be a lot to be, especially on so many working boards, where you're having to do the work of what a staff would be doing. So please just make sure you're taking care of you and that you're engaging in some self-care. And maybe you can come over and we can share a meal sometime soon and unplug from all of the things that we're doing and just relax.
Heck yeah, I'm definitely down for that.
All right. Sounds awesome. All right, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week for a new episode of Frankly Speaking, where we love to have frank conversations around what it is to be transgender, non-binary, and gender nonconforming. Non-binary, also known as NB, gender nonconforming, GNC, or being two-spirit, or all of those things, right? So tune in next week. We'll see you at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Avalisa and I host that show together, and we're not quite sure who we're going to have on the show, but we guarantee that the conversation will be robust.
Love it.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Just hang on here, Drew. Don't jump off on me just yet.
I almost did.
Yeah, you did.